Hello and welcome to the Latah Valley Fiber Co. podcast. My name is Tiffany. I am the owner and dyer behind Latah Valley Fiber Co. If you're new around here, welcome. If you've been here a while, welcome back. This episode is going to be a wrap-up of my 2025 knits. Now, I knit quite a bit in 2025, but there are a few things that I have not yet finished. I'm not going to count them in the wrap-up. This wrap-up is going to be finished objects only. So, let's get started. I'm doing a new format this year. I thought I would go by the month. So everything I finished in January, February, and so on. I think it would be easier that way as far as more on track instead of all over the place trying to throw stuff together. So let's get started with January. I knit several things in January and I've written it down. I took this from my my knitting journal right here and just wrote down a few details because I didn't want to have to flip through that. They're kind of all over the place because I finished them and started them at different times. So I'm just going to start with January and make it really simple. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. Okay, let's start off with the first thing in January. This I finished at the end of January. I started at the beginning and I finished at the end. This is the Ingrid Slipover by Petite knit. I used Juniper Moon Farm in this dark gray color. I don't think it came with a color, it was just a number. So it's dark gray. I knit the size 113 centimeters. So maybe that's size 5, I think, of Petite Knit's pattern. This was a great project if you wanted to do several different stitch patterns. You start off at the neckline here, you cast on, and then you do some shaping in the back, short row shaping. It might have been German short row, can't really remember, to build up the back of the neck, which shows here that the back of the neck sits higher and the front of the neck is lower, so it doesn't choke you, which is really nice. There are several different, there's a crisscross and a moss stitch, and then some ribbing here in the middle, and then you just repeat it. This slip over, I wear it a lot as my body is cold, but my arms are fine and I need to clean and do stuff like that. So this is a great pattern by Petite Knit. I highly recommend it. One of my favorites for the whole year. And it didn't take me too long, less than a month, to knit fully, so that's good. The next thing I completed in January was a Sophie scarf. This also is by Petite Knit. And I used my own hand spun. This is 100% merino. And the way that I spun this yarn kind of pooled the purples together, and then the dark purple and lighter bluish purple together. So it basically in half on this side and then this side with the darker. So I don't like this one as much, and I may gift it to somebody who likes this combination. So if you've done the Sophie scarf before, it's really easy. It's a beginner friendly pattern, and once you get started with the pattern, it's very easy to do, and the increases and decreases are really easy as well. So I recommend the Sophie scarf if you want to try it. Okay, the next two objects I have, I can't show you because I gifted them. They're socks. So I'll have a picture here. The first pair is from Summer Lee Designs Colorwork Cuff Club. The first version from January. I used socks, yeah, with their obsidian and sugalite colorways, and it had this little scalloped edge to it, which was really cool. I liked that pattern a lot. It was a lot of fun. And then the second pair was just a shorty pair of socks that I knit out of Malabrigo Gris, and those were for my mother-in-law. So that's it for January. All right, for February, I have none of these that I'm able to show you. I've given them away. So I'll have pictures for you to look at as I walk through it here. The first thing I finished was a pair of Shorty Vanilla Socks. No pattern. I just knit a cuff and 2 inches, and then started a heel flap and gusset, kind of my pretty standard go-to at this point. I used my own hand-dyed yarn, Be My Valentine 2025, and I gifted these. So the person I gifted them to is really enjoying them right now. The second project I finished was a double cable knit headband by Jennifer Thompson. I used my own hand-dyed yarn in the bulky. It was called Steel, and I made this specifically for someone and gifted it, so they too are enjoying it. The third thing I knit was a just a straight knit hat. No pattern, I just did it. I used a Malabrigo Mecca, which I believe is a bulky weight in the Chameleon colorway. I knit this hat for a customer and mailed it off to them when I was done. The fourth item was another knit hat, also for a customer. Malabrigo Rios is what I used, and that I believe is worsted weight. And that was in the Anniversario colorway, so I'll have a picture of both of those here. The fifth object I finished was a Shorty Vanilla Sock. Again, I used my own hand-dyed yarn in the Cover Me in Sunset colorway, and that was a gift. So they are enjoying them. And again, Shorty Vanilla Socks. I did a lot of them this year, so I didn't use a pattern. I just cast on and knit a 2x2 rib or a 1x1 rib for 2 inches. And then I did the leg for 2 inches. I did a heel flap and gusset and then decreased. And I knit the foot of the sock to the size that the person I was knitting it for would need. So that varied depending on who I was knitting it for. The sixth item that I finished is a pattern by Petite Knit, and it's the Dandelion dress. And I actually have this one because it was the first of several of these dresses that I knit for the year, and this one ended up being too small for the nieces I was knitting it for. So I still have this one, and I'm probably going to give it to maybe a 3-year-old and have it more as a tunic size. It'll fit in here, but it's too short lengthwise. So some leggings, cute boots, wearing it as a tunic, I think that would be fun. So I'm keeping this for a 3-year-old that's coming up that might enjoy this. The yarn I used was my own hand-dyed tweed base, so 100%, well, not 100% wool. It's wool, alpaca, and then it has this tweed neps in it. And I dyed it gray. This is a lovely pattern to knit. It's fingering weight yarn, and I really enjoyed it. However, with fingering weight yarn, I had a lot of stress on this side of my hand, so I ended up knitting 4 of these dresses, and I'll show you the rest coming up. So this is the first one, and I learned a lot with this one. I ended up knitting this one twice because I didn't gauge swatch, and I thought I could finagle the amount of yarn that I had for this size dress, and I ended up not having enough, so I had to cut it short, and this is how it turned out. So more of a tunic than a dress. Great pattern by Petite Knit. That is it for everything I knit in February. Let's move to March. All right, the first thing I finished in March is this sweater. This is the Magnolia Bloom by Camilla, and I used my own hand-dyed yarn. I have a main color gray, and then I used my Surrey Silk in the color, didn't write that down. Is it my Superpower? I think it was my Superpower. This is actually the second Magnolia Bloom that I've knit. She's come out with a couple other versions. I think one is a fingering weight and one is worsted now instead of the DK. So I've knit the original pattern. The first time I knit it, I knit a too small of a size. So I gifted that one to my mom, and then I knit this one. And I feel like it fits a lot better. I'm more comfortable in it. I did do a shorter sleeve so that I could still knit without getting my needle stuck in my sleeve. I've done that before, especially on DPNs. Only on DPNs. Or if I'm trying to do dishes or clean up real quick around the house, then I do like the shorter sleeves for that. I feel like this is a dressier sweater, which is nice. I can wear it and feel dressed up. It wasn't super easy to do once you got going and understood all the stitches you were making, which didn't take very long. Then it flowed very easily. So I highly recommend this pattern. The next thing I finished in March was a pair of Shorty Vanilla Socks. Again, I'll put a picture here. I used my own hand-dyed yarn Booth. And this pair I made for my mother-in-law. The third and final thing for March was a pair of knee-high leg warmers for my dad. I didn't use a pattern. I cast on 72 stitches and did a 2x2 rib for the top, and then knit for 9 inches, and then it did a 2x2 rib for the bottom, but I decreased down some stitches so at his ankle it was a little more snug versus up at his calf. He uses these a lot. He's got some leg issues, so warmth is helpful. So I hope he's getting a lot of good use out of those leg warmers. So the color I used was, I dyed it specifically for him, so it was a red color. I didn't put a name to it because why? It was only gonna be for him. So let's move on to April. We're cruising right along here. All right, in April I finished another Dandelion dress, and I've gifted this one, so I'll have a picture for you here. I used my own hand-dyed yarn Daisy Sweets in this beautiful pink, and this one I had enough yarn to knit the whole dress the way it was intended, full length and everything, and as you can see it's quite drastically longer. So this one fit very well, and she wears it a lot. It's for my niece. So the only thing that I kept going with is the capped sleeve. I didn't do any sleeves on any of the dresses, even though the pattern called for that. I didn't do sleeves. So she's worn this specifically a lot this winter, so that's always fun to see her at church running around in her pink dress that I knit. Okay, the next and final thing I've finished for April is this vest. This is the Boys and Girls Back to School Vest by Ratcha. This is a free pattern. I think I found it on Pinterest, and then you go to their blog and they have the pattern. This was a very easy pattern. You knit the back, the front, you sew it together, and yeah, it's seamed, and then you pick up and you knit the arms and the collar. So I liked this one because it had the cabling, but it was a very simple and easy cable to do. The yarn I used was Barocco Vintage in the smoke colorway, and so that's mainly acrylic with a little bit of wool, and super fun pattern. I ended up knitting 2 of these total, so I do recommend that if you want a vest for one of your children. Alright, for May I just have one finished item, and it's a pattern by Purl Soho. This is called the This or That Shawl. This or That Shawl by Purl Soho. The yarn I used was my own hand-dyed yarn in the color, This Is So Yummy. Sorry. This colorway right here is called So Yummy. And the cream or brown is called Squirrel. It's more of a creamish tan, I guess. I had a limited number of skeins. So this is a bulky weight yarn. I used 3 of the So Yummies and 1 of the Squirrel. And I wish I'd had more. I don't carry this yarn in the bulky in my shop anymore, so I was using it up, and it would have been nice. It doesn't quite, like when you're wrapping it around like a shawl, the ends are not long enough to tie together or anything like that. You have to pin it, which isn't bad. It's a little more fiddly that way, I think. So you could use it as a over your back like this, and then just hold it together in the front with your arms. But yeah, or maybe someone who's really small, you know, petite, that would maybe fit them. So I do have this in my gift bin because I'm not going to keep it for myself. So, but it's super squishy. It's just a garter stitch pattern, so super easy, really squishy and comfortable. So this one was a fun one to knit as well. And that's it for May. I just had the one. Okay, for June I have 3 finished items, and the first one is another Dandelion dress by Petite Knit. This one I knit with Cascade Heritage in this purple color. It doesn't have a name, it's just a number, so I'm not including that. This one I had a lot of fun with as well. And again, I spaced out the Dandelion dress because it was a lot of knitting and fingering weight yarn, and I had some trouble again with my left hand. So I just spaced it out and enjoyed knitting on them slowly. My niece loves this dress. She enjoys wearing it to church. The second thing that I finished was a Shorty Vanilla pair of socks. I used a couple different colors that I had, Booth and then a pink that I had left over from another pair of socks. And these I knit for my mother-in-law, Vicky. So she was enjoying shorty socks that came just above her ankle boots. So I knit several pairs of shorty socks for her for those. The last thing I knit or finished for June was a pair of rye socks by Tin Can Knits. And I used scraps to piece this together for my niece. I made the dresses and a pair of hand knit socks to go with the dresses. So that was for one of them as well. For July, I finished, let me see here, four items for July. So the first thing I finished was a pair of socks, Colorwork Cuff Club, again by Summer Lee Designs, for March. And I used Two Springs Fiber Arts yarn for this, in this beautiful purple mottled kind of color. And I really enjoyed these. The yarn was really nice to work with. I hadn't worked with it before, so that was enjoyable. And I gifted these socks as well. The next thing was another pair of socks, Rye Socks by Tin Can Knits, in the Cascade yarns and the Two Springs Fiber Arch yarn. And this was for my niece, for her, to go with her dress. The third item was another pair of Rye Socks. I used scraps from Two Springs Fiber Arts, and this was for my other niece. And then I finished Grandma's dishcloth. I only knit one dishcloth this year, and this was it in July. So I used Dishy Twist in the color Azure, and that has gone in my gift basket. For August, I finished 3 items. The first one was a pair of socks, Colorwork Cuff Club for June, and I used my own hand-dyed yarn for this. This was a really fun pattern. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed most of the Colorwork Cuff Club except for the geometric shaped ones. I didn't really care for those. Even though I did them, I didn't care for them. But June was not one of those. It was very enjoyable. The second item is another pair of Rye Socks by Tin Can Knits. And I used Polka Dot Sheep actually in Beartooth for this. And this is for my nephew. It's a great color. First time I'd used that. And it was a really nice yarn. Then the third item was another one of those boy and girl back to school vests by Ratcha. I used the same yarn, just a bigger size. Here's a picture of that. Okay, for September, I finished zero items. I knit in September, but I didn't actually finish anything. So the next couple of months make up for it, for sure. Okay. For October, I finished 3 items. The first one is a Dandelion dress, again by Petite Knit, and this is the last one. I used my own hand-dyed yarn in the mulberry colorway. Again, this is a fingering weight yarn, gray. It's beautiful. My niece loves wearing this dress, again, to church, and it's fun seeing them in it. The second thing I finished is a DRK Everyday Cowl by Andrea Mowry, and I still have it here. This is my own hand spun yarn. This was 100% merino wool, and the thing about the DRK is you cast on and you knit on the bias, which means you increase diagonally. Let's see. So from the back, you start here, you cast on, and then you knit and increase diagonally, and then you get the point, and then you decrease back down to the same amount of stitches you cast on, and then you seam this together. This is the small adult size. It's a little snug over my head, so I do have plans to knit an adult large in some hand spun yarn. This was a great pattern. I liked the slip stitch detail. I kind of wish, this is color blocking, which was how the yarn was spun. I do wish it was either a solid color or a slight fade. I think that would be really pretty. Andrea does in her pattern, she gives you a lot of options for that. You can stripe, you can fade, lots of different options. So I am looking forward to trying that in the larger size. Overall, highly recommend this pattern. I was looking forward to using it this year, but our winter here in Eastern Washington has been very, very mild. Today, it's January, I don't know. It's January 12th, and it's 48 degrees out. So, it's too warm to wear this, but I'm hoping we'll get some snow and colder weather, and I can wear my cowl. Okay, the third and final object that I knit and finished in October is a pair of socks. And this pattern is by Olivia Villarreal. It is called the Woodland Walk Socks. I used my own hand-dyed yarn in the color Tiger Lily. And I like this pattern because it's got a twisted rib on the cuff, which is really fun, and then you go straight into the pattern. And I did a repeat and a half and then started my heel flap and gusset. This heel flap is a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, which is in the pattern, and it's beautiful too. It's nice and squishy. And then I think I knit these for myself, so I haven't worn them yet because I wanted to show them on here. So I'm looking forward to having these to wear this winter. This is a free pattern on Ravelry. I suggest checking it out. It's really fun to do. Okay, let's move on to November. I finished multiple things in November. 6 total things. That's kind of fun. The first thing I finished was the mitered corner blanket by Purl Soho. I'll have a picture here because I have gifted this to my mom. The yarn I used was from Knit Picks. It was the Woodland Tweed in their color palette. I just bought the whole pack and then pieced together the blanket from that. Leftovers actually from a previous blanket that I used that same yarn. My mom's enjoying it, sitting with it on her lap, and I finished it just in time to give it to her at Thanksgiving. Super easy pattern to do. The repeat is excellent. It took me about 25 minutes to do one square, and there were 16 squares on the row, so you can kind of add that up to how long it took me to finish that blanket. The next thing I finished was another pair of vanilla socks for my mother-in-law, and I used my own hand-dyed yarn in the Tabitha colorway. She really is enjoying those vanilla socks, and I'm happy to knit them for her. The third item I finished was a Sophie shawl. Now, the scarf is smaller, which everybody knows. The shawl is bigger, and then there's a Sophie hood. Now, I did not buy the Sophie shawl pattern. I just had the Sophie scarf pattern. But all I did was measure my yarn. And then I knit until I was halfway through my yarn ball, and then I started the decreases. And this one is super wrappable. Oh, it already came around. There we go. This one's really cozy. This is 100% merino wool, and I did spin this myself. I love how this one came out. I don't know if it's the colors or what it is, but the way that this scarf came out versus the shawl, I like this a lot better. I've knit so many of these, several of them this year, so I foresee it being a pattern that I knit up quickly and gift. I've done several for gifts and several for myself. And in fact, I have another one on the needles for next year as well. So again, Sophie shawl. The next thing I finished was a pair of vanilla socks that I learned the technique for helical knitting. This color I used was my own hand-dyed yarn in scraps that I had laying around. They're pink and maroon. Then I knit two hats. Number 5 and number 6 are Myra hats by Knox Mountain Yarn Co. or Knit Co. Knox Mountain Knit Co. And I used a pink skein of yarn. I was able to knit 2 hats out of it. The first hat I knit was for Hudson's school teacher, and I gifted that to her around Christmas time. And then the second hat I knit was for my niece. And this pattern, the Myra hat, I knit 5 this year of that particular pattern. So that was a lot of fun. I really memorized the technique and the patterning and was able to just start and finish pretty much in 2 days with those hats. So those were a lot of fun. If you have a chance to knit the Myra hat, I encourage you to do so. All right, for December, I have a few things to show you. 5 finished items. The first one is a vanilla pair of socks, helical knitting. These were for my husband John, so this is my own hand-dyed yarn. It's in a gray and blue, kind of contrasting, and I have a picture here. He's wearing them, so not able to show you. I was really perfecting the helical knitting, and so I knit 3 socks total with that technique, and I really feel like I learned it very well, and it was a lot of fun to do. If you have scraps lying around, it's a very good way to use up your scraps. So I did, again, 3 pairs, but this pair, this gray and blue pair, is the pair I did for my husband. The next thing I finished is a pair of vanilla socks for my dad. I used the helical knitting technique, and it's in this gray and red. I gave that to him for Christmas, so he's enjoying those. The next 3 finished items are Myra hats. And the first one that I finished is this one. This is an adult small. I used Dream in Color yarn, which is the first time I've ever used that. This is a single ply worsted, and this is Sonoran Magic. So this, I've worn this a couple times. It's really soft and very nice. I knit the third one in this yarn as well, but I knit the child size. So, and then I gifted it to a friend's daughter around Christmas time. So this one is for me, and I'm excited to wear this if it ever gets cold this winter. Again, I wore it once, and I was hoping to wear it all winter, but you can't help the weather. So that is that one. And then I finished another Myra hat in this gray yarn. This is Life in the Long Grass Ceremony, and this one feels very soft against my head, which is nice. Sometimes I like beanies, which these 2 are, but sometimes it can get a little snug around my forehead and then it itches. I haven't noticed that with either of these 2, which is very nice. I've worn both of them. This one definitely fits more comfortably. I don't know what's in it. I think this has some what does this have in it? I'll put a note here. I'll look it up and put a note here. I'm not remembering it. It's wool and something else, and I'm not remembering what it is. But it's very soft and very nice on my forehead. So first time I've knit with that, and I really like it. So we'll see how it holds up. that is all the items that I finished in 2025. This year it turned out to be 42 items total. So that was a lot of fun. I ran them down to you, but I'm going to list them here. I knit 1 blanket, 2 sweaters, 17 pairs of socks, 7 hats, 1 dishcloth, 4 scarves, 1 cowl, 3 slipovers, 4 dresses, 1 headband, and 1 leg warmer for a grand total of 42 items. I feel like that's pretty good, although I didn't beat 2024. So I have a mission this year to beat 2024's. I think I was at 58. So that's a lot. Anyway, I hope you found that exciting and maybe gave you some inspiration to cast on some of these items that I've knit. If you got inspired, put down in the comments what you're interested in making. Until next time, happy knitting.